Hey folks, I'm Jack Watson, and I am a full-time UI UX designer, illustrator, animator, and a connoisseur of donuts. That last part is going to be important for today's challenge. Today we're going to be working on an Illustrator branding challenge. We're going to be working on making some brand guide templates. We're going to be making some style guides. But first, you'll need to check right below this video in the description underneath me. That's where we've got a link to your starter file, as well as links to other challenges and our Illustrator Discord community. After you download and open your starter file, this is what you'll see. You'll see 4 artboards and some resources off to the side. Today, our focus is going to be on the brand guide itself, so we're going to keep the brand fairly minimal. If you want to use a brand you already started for a previous challenge, maybe the monogram or the enamel pin or even a personal brand, feel free to expand on the challenge and develop your project further. I'd like to make a brand for a chocolate brand or shop. Don't ask me why. That's what popped into my head for this. Of course it's food themed, but I did do some brainstorming beforehand, but I do want to walk you through my process. So, as always, I'll grab my type tool here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit as well. And we're just going to click to make some point type. I like to brainstorm out on this artboard, holding down Shift to scale this up and making it white so you can see it. Because anything outside of my artboard doesn't export with my file. It's just kind of a nice area for me to sketch and brainstorm. So my thought process, I want to do something around chocolate, right? Chocolate. And you can think about your favorite type of chocolate. If you like fancy, schmancy, single origin chocolate bars. If you like things added to your chocolate, hazelnuts, pretzels. I really like pretzels in my chocolate. I also really like aerated chocolate, which is where this tangent kind of goes. If you've ever had an Aero bar, they'll add bubbles or they'll inject like air into it. So I'm going to put down bubbles. And I also kind of thought like, oh, this could be something kind of melty. Chocolate's kind of melty, right? And so I got thinking that this could be a holiday themed kind of a thing with like hot chocolate, sort of like hot chocolate bombs, or they're like these things that you put in hot chocolate and you pour milk over them. Anyways, it also made me think of ornaments, which made me think of Adobe Live UK and Sean's favorite word. Sean Kozel is going to stream here on Behance, and I know that Sean loves the word baubles. So I'm going to write that down, baubles, which is perfect because it's a homonym. So a homonym is a word that sounds like another word when you pronounce it, but it has different meanings. So baubles sounds like bubbles, ties back to our holiday hot chocolate, aerated chocolate theme. So now that we've got that sorted out, I am going to pick a font. So I'm going to hop over to one of the resources I have for you today, which is Adobe Fonts, and we're going to just browse by all fonts here. Our design today is going to be primarily a logo type since we don't have too much time and I want to get into the brand guide. So I'm just going to start to sort by some of these categories here, different styles, different tags for different vibes. I know that I want a heavyweight font, something that's kind of chunky, and I want something that is fun, something that's kind of friendly. Let's see here. Let's open up. Oh, friendly right there. We can go with that one. All right, so now we're in here. I like to switch down in this sort to be by newest, because I like to see what's new, and then I'm just going to take a look at these fonts and see if there's anything that kind of jumps out at me. I love New Spirit, it's one of my favorite fonts, but we're not going to pick that one today because I use it too much. Ice Cream is very apt. I really like the accents on this one. It kind of feels a little bit like, I don't know, melty with the swirly round shape. I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go with Serena. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to activate this font by clicking on that tab there to turn it blue. So back into Illustrator. Now we can test out our font. So I'm going to grab my type tool again. I'm going to click to add some more point type. Grab my my selection tool and scale up by holding down Shift, and I'm going to type out my brand name here, Baubles, and we can test what this is going to look like in our font. Up in the control bar, depending on what you got selected, it's going to change the options. In this case, we've got text, so we can choose character. And in the character panel, I can start to type out my font, which is this Sirena. I'm going to drop down and pick a pretty heavy version of this. I'm going to go with Sirena Black. Thanks, Wade, our moderator, just posted a link to that font in the chat if you want to go see it for yourself or use it for today. And then I'm not immediately taken by this font at first glance. It looked a lot fancier in the preview, but that might just be because it has some alternate characters. So if we double click into our font and we start to select some of these letters, you're going to see that as I hover over them, we get different kind of little windows here. We can choose different styles for each of these letters. So we can pick something that's a little bit more fancy. I like to start with kind of the beginning letter here, the initial character. Let's go with that one. And the last character here. So we can pick, as soon as I click that, it gave me more options. Let's see. Let's go with this one. Alright, so that kind of has the look and feel that I'm going for. It feels a little bit holiday already. The next thing that we need to do is we need to put together a color palette. So we've got our text kind of sorted here. I'm going to create a color palette, and you know that normally I go up here. Today we're going to use a circle because it's very on brand with our bubble concept for our chocolate. I'm going to hold down Shift and drag, and normally I would make a bunch of copies of this circle and I would make the colors, pick the colors kind of independently. But for today, I'm going to use a different kind of an option. I'm going to use a blend to create my color palette, and that's really great if you want to have colors that all kind of fit in a certain range. And that's because I want my colors to be kind of based on the colors of chocolate, right? So chocolate has kind of like a range from darker chocolate to lighter chocolate. So that's going to be kind of my starting point. I'm going to double click into my color window here, and it's going to open up my fill, and it's going to open my color picker. Now I'm going to just kind of start by picking, I'm going to go with a darker chocolate first. So we're going to pull this down to get kind of a warmer color in our hue slider, and then we can just, in our color picker, move down to a darker tone. I do want this to be a little bit playful, so I'm going to pull it back up into these kind of like more maroon tones, just kind of a personal preference, and hit OK. Alright, and then I'm going to hold down Option or Alt and Shift and drag to make a copy, and then over here, again on our far side, I'm going to go with my lighter chocolate, my white chocolate maybe. We're going to bring the hue slider back down to our kind of gold colors. And we're just going to pick kind of like a rich off-white for that. I'm going to hit OK. Alright, this could be a good range to work with, but I want to add one more color. I like to work with 3 colors. I'm holding down Shift and Alt again. And I'm going to add an accent color. So with this kind of mid-tone here, I'm going to pick a mid-tone kind of accent, double-clicking in. This could be like a medium milk chocolate, or we could go with something a little bit bolder. I'm going to go into like a kind of red-orange color here. Alright, that looks good. And now that I've got these kind of 3 colors sorted, I can actually use the blend tool today. So I'm going to drag to select all of these, and over here we've got the blend tool. And I can just click on my first circle, and then my second one, and then my third one, and it's going to blend between all 3 of those colors. That's really giving me a lot of options. I don't need that many colors, so I'm going to go up to Object, Blend, Blend Options, and it's set to Smooth Color by default, which is a little intense for me. I'm going to drop down to Specified Steps, and really, if I take a look, I only really need 1 color between each of those to get like a 5-color color palette. So I'm going to drop down to 1, and that's going to give me a good range of colors to work with. I'm just going to hit OK. So that's just kind of a different way that you can make a color palette if you have like a start and end in mind and you want to have like a good range of colors, in this case for chocolate. Alright, so let's start to build out our artboards for our template. I'm going to open up the artboard panel, and if you take a look, I've already gone ahead and I've named these for you. So we've got brand introduction, logo, colors, and fonts as a starting point. I've already gone ahead and dragged my color palette onto my color artboard. I'm just going to hold down Shift and drag to make it a little bit smaller and put it on our artboard. If you want to know what your artboards are, you can actually go to the artboard tool. And with the artboard tool selected, it's going to show you at the top here what the names of each of your artboards are if you need to kind of reference them. But we're going to add some labels to make that easier for ourselves. So I'm going to click in here and adding some point type. I'm going to scale it up a little bit. I'm actually going to name these to align with the artboards that I have. This is a really great way to indicate to your client what each page of the brand guide is supposed to indicate. So this one is brand introduction. I'm obviously using my brand font. It's a little bit crazy though, especially at smaller sizes. That really heavy font gets hard to read. So I would probably want to pick a secondary font to complement my brand. For the sake of time, I'm going to pick a tried and true favorite of mine, which is Filson Soft. It's also an Adobe font. I'm just going to pick Filson Soft Regular. I would recommend if you have a brand that has a very fancy logo type like this, that you go with sort of complementary, like maybe a sans serif or something that's a little bit easier to read. And then we'll bring this character style down quite a bit. It's at 75. We'll just bring it down to like 36 is good, right? So now I've got a label for our artboard here. I'm going to do one more thing that's going to help us in the future. I'm going to hit align right for our paragraph, and then I'm going to actually align it right. Now, I've got these guides in here for you, and the guides are for your reference only. These blue guides don't export out with your file, but I like to use them as a sort of margin to where I'm going to have all of the content for my brand guide inside of these guides. Now, I like to think of these little tags or these labels for each of the pages kind of like you would think of a page number, and then I don't actually keep them inside the content of my kind of main brand guide. I'll pull this like out just outside. That way they're not kind of interfering with the other content. And I also like to keep everything in the exact same spot. That way every single time that the client is going through this, they know where to look for that information. So I'm going to select this first one. I'm going to hit Command C to copy. And now today I'm going to go up and I'm going to go to Edit, Paste on All Artboards. And when I do that, it's going to paste the exact same text on each of the artboards in the exact same spot to make it really easy for me to edit. And the reason for that is, the reason it's going to be easy to edit is I've set this to be right aligned on all of these. So if I go in here and this one, you can see highlighted, this is our logo board, so we can say primary logo. I'm just going to go down here and change all of these to be the names for what they are. We've got colors, and then down here we've got fonts. Alright, so we've got our template kind of started. How's everybody doing in the live chat? Megan, how's it going? Corey likes bubble chocolate. Wade has had an arrow bar. If you're joining us on Behance at behance.net/Adobe Live or on the Adobe Live YouTube channel, come say hi, ask questions. Let me know if you have a better name for our brand. Alright, so now we've got our colors down. Let's start to add some copy to this so it feels a bit more like a brand guide. You might want to add on each of these boards a title and then maybe like some copy, right? Some body copy, paragraph text basically. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just going to add a title here. Let's say this is primary. Oh, there we go, double clicking in, primary colors. I'm going to just eyedropper my brand font. It's going to be enormous. We don't need it that large. We can just bring it down by clicking in the character panel, and we'll pick a more reasonable, like 60 maybe. And then again, that black style is going to be too heavy for the size of our type, so we need to bring it back down. I'm going to go with maybe just a standard bold. I think will be a little bit easier to read at that size. So we've got kind of like a title here. We can add some copy, right? So I'm going to click on my type tool, and before I actually start drawing with creating area type with my type tool, I'm going to set up some of the character styles. So I'm going to go to the top here. I'm actually going to eyedropper my secondary font here. So I've got my Filson Soft, or you can go up here and you can type it in. And for my body copy, I'll just want to set this to be smaller. Let's go with something like, I don't know, 21. And instead of clicking this time, I'm going to drag. And when I drag, it's going to fill my box with some generic lorem ipsum copy. That's going to just be some placeholder for me that I know that I need to go back in here and add. Maybe we can talk about like the decisions that we made when we were picking these colors, our thought process, you know, what they kind of represent in relation to the brand. But that looks good to me for now. Now, I might want to have the same style on every page, since I might want to have descriptions on every page for each of these different areas. So I'm going to drag to select this with my selection tool, and then I'm going to hit Command C again, and I'm going to take advantage of my edit, paste on all artboards again to put this on all of my artboards so we can start to build out a template. However, I don't actually need that on my primary logo because we're going to do something a little bit different there. So I'm just going to drag and I'm going to delete that for now. What we're going to do on this... My keyboard's having a hard time. Okay, there we go. What we're going to do on this primary logo is we need to show the logo to the client, our logo type, but we want to provide a lot of different options. So when you present your logo, you want to show what it looks like on lighter dark backgrounds, on darker backgrounds, in different colors from your color palette. Give them a range so that they can kind of see the logo in context. It's like as important as showing your design on mockups. I know mockups are a lot of fun, but it's really important to also just show like, what does this look like in one color? What does this look like, you know, in full color, but on different like midtones, etc. So I'm going to go over and I just grabbed my rectangle tool and I'm going to drag out a rectangle. I've got smart guides on, so once I hit the center of the artboard, it's going to align that to the center of my artboard. You can see the box kind of snapping. And I'm going to drag down. I basically want to make my box a quarter of the artboard. You can make sure that you've got those turned on under view and have smart guides checked on. Okay, with our first box, now it's really easy to just use our handy Option, Shift, and drag to drag out a copy. And then holding Shift to select both, I'm going to do the same thing, Option, Shift, and drag. Alright, so now we've got 4 boxes. We can start to decide what colors we want to make these. So, our first one is going to be just white, just simply white, for our lighter value. And I'm going to select this other one, and we could just use black, but I'm going to make it a little fancier, and I'm going to pick my darkest color from my color palette. The next color that I want to test is I want to see what this looks like on a kind of mid-tone, so I'm going to pick right in the middle of my color palette. And then I also want to see what this looks like in color in my lightest color. So this is going to give us a nice range of options to see what our logo looks like. Now I can just go down here, I can hit Command C to copy my logo type, and just hit Command V to paste it. And I need to scale it down a little bit, so we'll drag holding down Shift to scale it down. And I could go through and try to like line this up, but there is an easier way. With my text selected, I'm going to hold down Shift and select this first box. And I've got my alignment options up here. And when I have 2 things selected, or more, or 3 or 4, I can actually click on another object, and it's going to make that a key object. What that means is anything that I have selected is going to align to that key object. So I can use horizontal align center and vertical align center to get it just kind of centered right in that box. I'm going to do the same thing, Command C and Command F to paste in front, holding down on my second box to select, holding Shift and selecting my second box, tapping again to make it a key object, align and align. It's a little bit hard to see. I can already see I've got a contrast issue to work with. Command C to copy, Command F to paste in front. And now I can use my key object again, selecting that box with 2 of these selected, and I can use vertical align center. I don't have to use both, I could just use one, boop, and it's going to align it along the midline of those boxes for me. Alright, now I've got a couple of examples in here. We can start to fix the contrast issues. So I'll select this one over dark, it's really hard to see, and I'm just going to change that to be white. So we've got one color black, one color white. We know what it looks like over the different colors. And I'm going to select my mid-tone here, and then this time I want to choose a color from my color palette. Maybe we'll go with, we could go with sort of a mid-tone here, but you can see that it's a little bit hard to read, so I'm actually going to pick my lightest color. So we're going to have lighter color there. And then over here, again, I don't want to pick my darkest color. I really want to see what it looks like if I can get away with trying to use as many of the color options as I have when I'm putting these together. So we've got a version that's got our kind of mid-tone, not quite as dark, not quite in the middle, kind of brown there. All right, there we go. So I have my logos, I have my color palette here. If you wanted to go in here as well, you could click to add some type down here. We could add like color 1. We could put in like our hex code for each of these if we wanted to. For the sake of time, you get the idea. You could go in here and kind of do that. But I do want to get to fonts because I think that's a really important topic of discussion. I want to set up today my character styles for this, essentially, as if I was making a style guide for the web. So I'm going to think about these fonts if they were for a website. So we'd have some header text, probably anywhere from 4 to 6 different header styles, and then we'd have body copy. So I'm actually going to grab just this to start, my primary logo. I'm going to double click and type header 1. And for the web, you would be working with M's, but for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to be working with standard sizes in Illustrator. And with Illustrator's kind of standard sizes, I like to go with, for my H1, a good place to start is like 48 points, something around that, in terms of like my largest size. So my header is going to be my largest size. I'm going to use Command-C and Command-V to make another line of text. And I'm going to change this one to be Filson Soft Regular. Bring the size down to something like 24. Zooming in a little bit. This is going to be my label. So I'm going to say our font is Cyrenia. It is 48 point, and it is bold. So that tells the person looking at this what the font is, the size it is, and the style and everything. And we can just kind of go down. I'm just selecting both of these, Command-C and Command-F. Command-C and Command-F. I'm just going to make 4 of them to start. And you can go in here. This is going to be header 2, header 3, and header 4. So we're setting ourselves up for success. And I just like to go down the line now and scale these down. So I'm going to go in here, and for my header number 2, this one's going to be slightly smaller. You can think of these as like going down in the hierarchy. So I'm going to pick something like 36. And the smaller we get, the more difficult those bold, fancy fonts are going to be to read. So I'm going to switch this from being a bold to maybe a semi-bold. And then you can go in here and you can update the type here to match. This is 36. I'm not going to go through and do all of these, but I will style them all for you. We'll go to header 3, and we want this one. Now, once we get down into this size, once we get down into like the really small sizes, we'll go to like 24. This isn't very small, but you get the idea. This Cyrenia becomes really hard to read. And so I'm going to go and change this to be my Filson Soft now. This is where I would get into like my font pairings. And then I'm going to change this to also be Filson Soft. And this one's just going to be maybe regular. And 18 point. Alright, so we've got a range. I'll pretend like this is going to be my body copy. So I will change the character style for this to be something like 14 or 12. 12 or 14 is a pretty good spot. Let's go with 12, and we can change this to be book, so it's a little bit thinner. I'm going to actually delete this and draw out a new box of area type so that it fills the space. There we go. Actually, we probably could go with 14. Alright. Just kind of centering it. We could add another label down here explaining that this is, our body copy, etc. If you wanted to get it like placed nicely, etc. All right, and if I have time, the last thing that I want to address is the brand introduction. So we do want to have, we could type this as brand intro. Can use our already existing area type, scaling it, not scaling the actual type, it's just scaling the box because we've got area type. We can align these. I'm going to Command C and Command V my brand name. And then if we wanted to be a little playful, I'll draw out a box. We'll go to Object, Arrange, Send it back, grab a color here, and we can just kind of use that trick with the curvature pen tool and drag down to round that out if we wanted to. And create like a nice drag to select with direct selection tool, creating a nice kind of design for our brand guide. So there we go. We've got a brand intro, we've got our primary logos, colors, fonts. Once we're ready to export, I would again recommend using Share for Review, but I do have to save it. Share for Review, and generating that share link. You can create a new link and copy the link and post it to our Discord. Or you can go to File, Export, Export for Screens, and upload the PNGs and JPEGs to our Daily Creative Challenge DCC feedback channel to get feedback on your designs and check out what everybody's working on, their lovely avatars. Nice seeing all your smiling faces. But that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for joining me for an Illustrator branding challenge. We went over type tools, artboards, blends to create color palettes. You can find us live every day at 11:30 a.m. Pacific at behance.net/Adobe Live and on the Adobe Live YouTube channel. But stay here for more live content after me. Bye, everyone!